What are science internships? They're an ability to gain hands-on experience with the application of your science education or even your lab experience if you're an undergraduate doing volunteer research or a graduate student doing bench science to business. Because again, even though R&D positions in biotech or ag tech or any similar space might on the face of it seem very similar to what you're doing at the bench in your degree or volunteer lab work, the application to business presents a lot of differences that an internship can help you get experience understanding. But it's not just R&D. There's internships in biotech for business development, marketing, even consulting. And if you're not interested in biotech, there's also internships out there for things like science education, science policy, science communication, internships with government agencies, which can again help you gain experience with those applications of science, which are going to be different than what you're getting in your academic environment. And for the most part, these are going to be summer-based internships because for most of them, they expect a full-time commitment, meaning 40 hours a week for the span of the internship period. So why would you want to do a science internship? To reiterate, it's a great introductory step to how industry functions and those subtle differences between an academic lab environment and an industry lab environment. And the understanding of those differences are going to really help you prepare to put your best foot forward in interviews and give you insight, which is going to help speed along your training once you get into a job position. It also exposes you to different ways of thinking about science. And because a lot of these industry labs are able to spend more money on some of this equipment and technology than academic labs, it can also, if you're on the R&D side, even on the sales side, if you're helping with sales for the equipment, it gives you access to more cutting edge technology, which is going to be highly in demand, especially in those nice to have qualifications of job descriptions. It can really put you over the top as a highly qualified applicant. And the obvious thing is that some of these internships can serve as a gateway to a job offer. Something I want to mention, if anyone here is at the graduate level, is convincing your mentor to let you take, say, some of them will be shorter, 2 weeks or so, but typically you're looking at around an 8-week, 10-week commitment, convincing them to let you take that amount of time away from lab. Some things to bring up: you do bear the lion's share of your success, but your career success is also going to reflect on them as your mentor. And so you getting experience, which is going to help you obtain a career, even one outside of academia that you excel at, is going to reflect better on them as a mentor. You can also show them that you can prioritize your project if they have funding or you have an expected graduation date, say 2 years from now. Planning for your project and looking at what you've been able to complete so far and at the speed that you're going at. Can you demonstrate that you have that time to spare? It shows that you're thinking about your project first, you're prioritizing getting it done, but because you're doing that, you have the extra bandwidth, as it were, to complete this internship. You also want to share your future plans with them, sometimes framing it as what you're passionate about and what you want to pursue, and the skills and experience that can help you obtain to reach those career goals can really go a long way with some mentors, not all, but they're humans too, and can really help convince them to let you take this time to complete an internship. For the ones that are giving you more pushback, I really do recommend bringing in a liaison if you need to. I know some departments will have, with the rise of the focus on getting experience outside of academia, there's usually, if there's not already a formal system built in, there's faculty within your department would potentially be willing to be a small, say, professional development committee for you, or at least be a liaison between you and your mentor, an external voice to advocate for you. For your initial planning, start at least 1 year early. I know this sounds very looking too much in the future, but considering that a lot of these internships and fellowships are going to be in the summer, a lot of times the applications will start opening in the fall for the next summer based on as soon as they finalize feedback and any edits they want to make based on the previous summer's internships. And so with starting 1 year early, you can start getting a list of the internships or fellowships that you're interested in and be ready to apply and apply with a strong application for those fall deadlines. Also, look for, instead of just internships, you can also look for fellowships during your search. A lot of non-biotech roles that I mentioned, communication, policy, and science writing, science education, are going to be described typically as fellowships rather than internships. Across the board, fellowships will typically mean that they're paid. That's not necessarily a sure thing, but that is more typical for a fellowship versus an internship. But those will also be then higher competition, which again, it's better to start planning earlier. If you are in a graduate student position, begin mentioning this interest to your PI early, so around the same time. And if at all possible, get their approval in writing. I don't want to think too negatively and think like, oh, they might rescind their go ahead for you to go and do an internship. That is a worst case scenario, which is sometimes happens. So getting an approval in writing, I always think is a good thing. For the different levels we're looking at, for undergraduates, a lot of the roles are going to be looking for junior or senior undergraduates when they're looking for internships at the undergraduate level. And for a lot of graduate students, the internships will be limited to post-comprehensive exam graduate students. That doesn't mean you can't be doing things during freshman, sophomore year or early in your graduate career that can help you prepare your application for your internship. If you're really interested in a biotech internship and you have some companies that you're thinking about, attending events where some of their members are speaking at online makes it easier than ever, just to start building up your network with them. For junior or senior undergraduate students, doing volunteer research in a PI's lab is a great way to start building up some experience, even unpaid, for your internship application. Be aware of how much time you can devote to it. Say you're doing a volunteer experience and you could do it potentially every weekend for a month, but you're not sure you're going to be able to maintain that, and you might end up having to cancel some days at the last minute. Or you could do it for 1 day a month and there'll be less time and experience there, but you'll show yourself as someone who's able to meet the expectations that are being set for them and is able to follow through with their commitment. That's going to be a lot stronger. So be aware of how much time you can commit and try not to get over involved in something that you can't commit to or follow through with. When you're looking for your internships, start out thinking about what you want to get out of your internship. If you're setting yourself up for success in an internship, you want to know going in what you want to get out of it. Do you want to gain new skills? Then as you're evaluating which internships you want to apply to, really pay attention to the details of the role and prioritize or rank what you want to apply to based on how well they align with the skills that you want to gain. Do you want to explore different roles than the one that you're currently in? Then you want to look for internships in the department that you want to move into. When you're applying to an internship, also look at the time that they're asking you to commit and really figure out if that's a commitment that you can hold up, because one of the things that you want to really try to avoid is not being able to meet the time commitment expectations of the internship or having to leave it early for anything other than an emergency reason. Do you want to get a job offer out of this internship? Then you maybe want to target companies that you could see yourself working in or that you have the greatest interest in. The next step would be finding the internship. This is maybe not what everyone wants to hear, but one of the easiest ways is to use your pre-existing contacts, whether it's mentors or other students. If you're using a contact you already have to get an experience, make sure that you really feel like that you can excel in that experience, or at least meet the commitments that are being asked of you. Because if you're using a pre-existing contact to get an internship, you're essentially risking 2 potential recommendations if you're not able to meet your commitment that you're making for the internship. Attend some seminars, both at your university and externally. If there's companies that you're interested in working in, if there's people from the companies who are speaking at external events, especially at panel events are a great opportunity to ask about this. Not necessarily ask, can I have an internship, but what kind of internship opportunities do the company have in place? What is the application time frame? More of those general questions rather than a outright ask for an internship. I also really encourage you to search other universities' web pages than the one you're currently at. A lot of universities will compile internship opportunities on their professional development pages. And while it might seem a little weird at first to be looking at the external internship opportunities for companies that are being listed on another university's webpage, as long as it's public facing, I say it's fair game. Government websites, so the NSF, if you're interested in science policy, has a long list of fellowships that they compile every year. Even places you wouldn't necessarily think of, a lot of natural history museums, for one, have internships which are more of the research focused, not just the education side that they'll list. A lot of large companies will most likely have an internship structure in place. So if there's large companies that you're interested in working at, start reaching out to them early. Smaller startup companies would also potentially be interested in taking an intern, but they're also going to be less likely to pay you for an internship. So for these ones, I typically recommend reaching out to ones in your area so that you mitigate some of that relocation cost. When it comes to applying for an internship, cover letters really matter. I know for jobs, cover letters are becoming less and less something that's even read by hiring managers. But in my experience for internships, typically because the people who are going to be coming in have less of that experience side of their resume, they're really going to be looking more at the cover letter and how you present yourself as an applicant. Even if this is an email that you're sending, like a formal email to the company, make sure that you're including reasons for your interest in the specific role and in the company as well. And include examples of your experience which are highlighting your fit. This doesn't need to be paid experience as well. So it doesn't need to be a perfect fit, but do try to select some of your experience to highlight your fit for the role in your cover letter. Expect a long interview period. For a lot of these internships, the interview period is going to be really similar to a job interview period. For fellowships specifically, expect several rounds of interviews. It's typically going to be set up like a job interview. So prepare for the interviews the same way you would prepare for a job interview. You want to have talking points about the company or the organization that you're applying to, as well as have experience from your past that you can highlight quickly for your role. Be able to summarize your strength as an applicant in a good 60-second pitch. All that same preparation applies to obtaining an internship, but also be forward with what you want from the experience. Sometimes we get somewhat hung up in the same way we do with jobs. You feel like, I need this, I need to get this role, but it's better through an interview process find out that it's not the right role for you and potentially walk away or not get selected than get something that's not ideal for you and potentially not being able to complete it, or completing it and putting all that time and energy in and not getting what you want to get out of it. Always have backup plans. Keep in mind that they're talking to other applicants, so you can talk to other companies. Make the time commitment that you have apparent and pay attention to the potential supervisor's management style. Again, this comes back to, are you going to be able to complete the full period of the internship? And are you going to be able to work with your potential supervisor?